Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, October 4th, 2021 public meeting of the City of Bel Air Beach. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Robin Aki.
Present.
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Glenn Gunn.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Notero.
Here.
Councilmember Rita Swope.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
Mayor Joseph Manzo.
Here.
City Manager Lynn Reeves.
Here.
And City Attorney Fred Riley.
Here.
Okay, thank you. First item of business is to approve the agenda. Before we do that, we've got four items on the consent agenda. I want to move, actually I have questions on two of them, but I think we have to move them so we can discuss them. So 8, 9, and 10 I'd like to move. Just question on 8 and 9, 10, a little bit more of I couldn't read the attachment, so I'm going to have the city manager explain it. So nothing heavy. I just want to move that to regular agenda. Anybody have anything else? I'll entertain a motion then to approve the agenda, moving those items.
Motion.
Motion by Frank Bankert, your mic's not on, but motion by Bankert.
Second.
Second by, was that Robin?
Yep.
Yes, okay. Any discussion? Citizens? Council? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Citizens' comments. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to invite you to come up here, take 3 minutes, speak to the council on any topic that's not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, we'll have a separate time to discuss that agenda item when it comes around. So don't come up and speak about something we already have, because you'll have more time later on that. Please just give us your name, your address information, and we all had a meeting afterwards where we all agree that we're going to try and keep these things as civil as we possibly can. We're going to do our best, and we ask you to help us with that. So, does anyone like to address the council? Debbie?
I'm Debbie Ma. I live on Causeway Boulevard. I have a few suggestions and a few comments. First, regarding the parking lots, and most particularly the crane and heavy equipment at the 12th Street access, I would like to suggest that we have Mr. Riley write a letter to Bel Air Shore informing them that due to their issuing parking permits for construction vehicles and other commercial vehicles in violation of their own ordinance, that we can no longer indemnify and hold harmless Bel Air Shore from claims of injury or property damage on any vehicle in the lot without a Bel Air Beach parking sticker, as well as non-resident pedestrians accessing the lots. I doubt our insurance covers damage caused by construction vehicles or is aware that we're allowing heavy construction equipment to use these lots. Second, Lynn mentioned that y'all are looking into a new telephone system. I'd suggest that we look for a system with a feature that will allow you to push out text messages to property owners regarding emergency information. Since we have a significant number of snowbirds as well as renters, these property owners would not see any emergency information posted on our sign. We have a home in Colorado and rental properties there as well. I receive texts from the cities where we own properties regarding fires, snowstorms, COVID vaccinations, freeways closures, etc. And it's just a really good way, I think, to keep our citizens informed. I'm also very concerned about personal issues of board members that are influencing their opinions and votes. As elected officials, you all are held to a higher standard and must represent and consider the needs of all of the citizens. Those of you who live on the water and don't use the beach cannot minimize or push aside the needs of those citizens who do use the beach. So while dilapidated boats or boat docks may be important to some of you, it's no more important than umbrellas or buoy markers to those of us who enjoy the beach. I'm very concerned, in particular, about the ethical issues of Ms. Swopes. She felt it completely unnecessary to inform the council that she was listing our city manager's home for sale and would make a significant commission from selling it. She did not recuse herself from voting on a pay raise and other things regarding our city manager, yet she felt it necessary to recuse herself from voting on the sign ordinance because she's a realtor. That didn't make any sense to me. I believe that she is unwilling to represent the citizens of Bel Air Beach fairly in issues regarding Bel Air Shore because she's hoping that perhaps she would get a referral, perhaps from Mrs. Colucci on listing a home here. I believe that, let's see, I believe that also our city manager has issues with that same elephant in the room, so to speak. We've seen the parking issue escalate, as well as the issue with the beach accesses, umbrellas, and now we're seeing it with the buoys. Rick Schock and I first met with Lynn regarding the parking lot issues when Lynn became city manager years ago, and nothing was ever addressed or done. That's why Rick and I, not Joseph Manzo, first contacted Bel Air Shore threatening the lawsuit. My time is up, is that correct? Okay, thank you.
I would
That's
yield
up
my
to the
10
mayor.
minutes to her, if that's okay.
I'm not sure if we could take a yield afterward. I don't have the,
It's
normally
okay.
yield in front. I don't, Fred, do you know it offhand? or-
Real close.
I'm sorry?
I was close to being finished.
You're, okay, all right, thank you. I think if you're gonna yield, I think it has to be done up front, just so you know.
Okay.
I think so. I could be wrong on that. If you want me to look it up, we'll stop it.
No,
but-
not necessarily.
You're okay? Okay. All right. Anyone else wish to address the council? Seeing no other hands, I'll close the citizen comments. Next, we have a presentation by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office Sergeant. You're going to be doing the presentation?
I am, sir.
Okay, please
If
come up.
I could also take the opportunity to introduce my Corporal Kelman.
Sure, bring him up and let everyone meet him. Absolutely.
He'll be filling in occasionally when I'm not here.
Okay.
So again, I'd like to take the opportunity to say good evening to everybody, and this is Corporal Stuart Kelman. Again, he'll be on my shift for the duration of the shift, and he'll be filling in my absence.
Welcome, Corporal Cullen.
All right, so the statistics that I am presenting this evening are going to be from August of 2021. The activity, we had one assault that was domestic related, and then we also had 2 thefts. There were a total of 12 people arrested. A lot of those came from traffic-initiated traffic stops, DUI, and other related offenses. There were 931 events in the city for the month of August, and leading that were house checks and traffic enforcement. And then there were 3 crashes, one at 2000 Gulf Boulevard, Causeway and Gulf Boulevard, and Causeway and Cedar Drive. And a total of 208 citations and warnings were issued within the city limits. And it looks like, from the breakdown that I have here, 32 look like they were traffic citations and 169 warnings. And I can't quite see the breakdown on the parking citation enforcement. However, I do know the deputy on my shift is continually in Morgan Park and the other accesses. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Sheriff, I do know, I mean, I don't know why, but maybe it's domestic related, but you know, if you look at us versus last year, we're pretty much the same in terms of crime, and all of this is very, very low. Most people have, you know, cities have this kind of crime in a day. We talk about it for months on end, but you know, we only have 12 major events, you know, year to date up to August. But I do note that like 7 of them this year are assaults, and last year we only had 1. Is it domestic related? I mean, or is it just something in the water? What's going on?
I'm going to say that it is majority domestic related. However, when I do some research on some of the significant activity that occurs in the city, I will note that some of the activity occurs elsewhere and it ends up in the city, or it will occur somewhere else, come through the city and end up in Indian Rocks Beach, and somehow it ends up getting titled in Bel Air Beach when it should be titled maybe a different city. So sometimes the numbers don't reflect that it necessarily occurred in Bel Air Beach. It may have occurred somewhere else or ended up in Bel Air Beach as opposed to where it actually occurred.
Any observation as to whether this is transients, you know, with the short-term rentals that we have on the beach, the motels, things like that, versus our regular residents?
Some of them are transient in that nature, visitors coming from other states. One of the noted reports on there is a grand theft. That was a bicycle that was taken from Morgan Park, where it happened to be a transient that came through the city, saw the bicycle and took it for himself. However, he was captured right down the road. So a lot of it is transient. Some obviously are residents as well. There was a burglary to a conveyance in which the vehicle door was unlocked. However, that was the only one, which means that the citizens are doing their part by locking their doors. Unfortunately, sometimes one gets by, door was unlocked, however, nothing was taken.
I saw, somebody showed me a video of kids, I don't know if it's here or one of the neighboring towns, and you can just see them, they go around 3 or 4, one sits in the road, keeping an eye out, the other two on one side, 2 on the other, and they're lifting doors at, whatever, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, so you just heard it from the sheriff, lock your doors, we've said it 1,000 times, you don't want to be one of these statistics. Any council comments, questions? Yeah, Frank?
I was wondering, the 3 beach access lots that are conveyed to us, deeded to us, since you guys no longer ticket it through the Bel-Air Beach ticket book, is there any way we can get a statistic, since they are our lots, every month, how many citations are being issued?
Through the Bel Air Shore beach
Yes.
access? Yeah, of course, yeah, you can reach out to the,
Can we get that included in?
I think that came up a month ago or 2 months ago, and my understanding is that would be through Captain Liner or reaching out to the city, something to that, or I'm sorry, reaching out to the agency and get it that way.
Frank, I made that request and they declined it. I said, but it is available if you, they don't publish it like we do here, it is part of their agenda, but Bel Air Shore does get that information every time, so.
My apologies.
Yep, no problem. Any other council comments? Citizens, anything for the sheriff? Yes?
Is it possible to know how many citations are written on the causeway?
I'm gonna repeat that because you didn't come up and we're just
Oh, sorry.
trying to be, it's all right. So that was Debbie Mall, and the question is it possible to know how many citations were written on the causeway?
I can request a breakdown for specific locations. Again, when you have over 100 citations being issued, both citations and warnings, it might take a little bit more to break it down to the specific location. So I can request and see if that can be broken down into that criteria.
Thank you.
Would you like that? Is that what you're, is it possible to get a month of that or without too much extra work? I mean, we don't have massive stuff. City
I'll
manager?
ask
Ask,
Captain Liner.
Okay.
It's back, he's on vacation.
Okay. They usually give us the, the breakout here, where the stops occurred, but that doesn't necessarily mean whether there was a citation written, so. Usually,
Stops are fine.
right. Usually you like to do 1 or 2 in front of my house. My whole house lights up when you're doing it out there. It's nice at 2 o'clock in the morning, but you guys are doing great, so. And actually, I'll say something about that. There was one. I mean, the whole house is lighting up, with the blue lights, and I was observing it from the window. I was kidding Captain Liner. I said, this is like watching Cops, but I don't have to watch it on TV. The professionalism was incredible. I mean, there were 2 young people. There was some issues, and you had them out of the car, but you could just see it went very smoothly. I don't think they even got a ticket. They may have just got a warning or something, but you worked through the whole thing, and everybody was, kept their cool and everything. It was, it was late at night, so it was a good job.
I'll pass it along.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, anyone else? Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
And welcome. Item 4 is board reports. We have Board of Adjustment, Parks and Rec Board, and Planning and Zoning Board. Anyone from Board of Adjustment?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
No report. That's Michael Kelly. No report from the Board of Adjustment. Parks and Rec Board. Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Just a quick board report from this last quarter. You don't hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, in the last quarter, we had 2 blood drives, so I want to thank everyone that participated. One blood said that 7 donations were made, saving 21 lives in August, and then we had 11 blood donations September 24th, saving 33 lives. So I'd like to thank everybody that came. And if you haven't done so, or if you don't know a lot about it, you can either sign up online or you can just show up and kind of wait in line. So it just depends on your time frame. But thank you to everyone that has participated, and the next blood drive is Friday, November 19th from 10 to 3 in the parking lot. So my second item is the beach cleanups have been going very well. This past Saturday was our 5th month meeting on 19th Street. This past quarter, we've had anywhere from 11 to 25 people show up on the beach, so it's really great. It's a nice hour, you're in and out, and we collect a lot of garbage, so it's good. So it's a nice way to get to meet people, and I appreciate everybody that's coming out to help. Number 3, so this last Sunday, we had our Jazz in the Park event. So again, I think everyone was really happy with the outcome. I know we were, and I'd like to thank my entire board for all the hard work. Everybody pitched in, and time and talent was extremely appreciated. We had about 120 people in attendance, and we sold about $700 in Bel Air Beach merchandise. Everyone was really excited about it, and a lot of people were like, we didn't know we had this. Which kind of makes sense because, you know, if you work during the day, you really can't get up to see it. So it was nice that everybody had a chance to see what we had to offer. And we sold out of a couple of the categories, so that was nice. Okay. Number 4, an indoor yoga class was added by request. It's all fitness level, so if you've never done yoga a day in your life, this would be a great class. If you don't like sand, if you don't like the heat, she accommodates all levels, and it's Monday and Wednesday at 11:30 here in this room. So I've taken the class a couple times, it's really nice. And it's also good because the beach yoga, if, you know, because of the red tide, or if it rains, it gives you an opportunity if you can't go to the beach and do it. Up and coming events, Halloween Pets and Pals costume contest and parade is coming up this Saturday, October 30th from 10 to 12. It was requested on the postcard invites that if you please call and sign up, you literally just have to give your first name and your address. We've already had a couple, I think we have 3 kids and a dog or 2 that have signed up already. And we really just want to know to make sure that we have enough refreshments. If you decide last minute to, you know, throw a costume on your dog and show up, that's great too. Don't feel like you have to sign up to participate. We have really nice prizes for the winners, and it'll be a quick in and out with treat bags for all the kids and all the dogs. And so hopefully we have good weather and we have a good turnout like at the Jazz Fest. We also have another Sunsets by Brush. That will be Wednesday, November 3rd from 4 to 7. We had one in May, and we had a very good turnout. We had about 22 people show up. There's a video of it on the Bel Air Beach website that Patty added, if you're not familiar with it, but it's a really beautiful way to spend the evening on the beach painting. And you don't have to be a good painter. You know, it's just fun, and the instructor's wonderful. And then last but not least, we have our holiday social and Christmas tree lighting on Monday, December 6th at 5 o'clock, so it'll be right before the city council meeting. It'll be a quick 1-hour thing, but we will have Christmas carolers and refreshments, and we'll light our Christmas tree for the season. So that's all I have for this quarter. Are there any questions or comments?
I went to the event last week, and I thought it was put together nicely. It wasn't over the top, and it seemed like everyone was having a good time. So, and I think everyone I know that went there bought something from you guys. So,
Nice.
good job on that. In fact, I wore my shirt over to the grocery store, and somebody immediately came and said, "Where did you get that?"
Oh, good.
So that was really cool. Great job.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Hang on. I wasn't able, I had a prior commitment that day, but what I've heard, it went well, and it sounds like it did. So thank you to you and your group. Great job. And looking forward to the next events. Some of these things you're mentioning, like Sunset by Brush, I'm not going to paint anything. I can't even paint a wall.
That's
but
okay.
It's okay. I didn't even know about that though. So like, please, let us know. And I mean, if you want us, when we come to the end over here, we usually say when the next council meeting is. But if you have an event, like, you're here today, but you only come and typically have to make a quarterly presentation. If you've got something that you want us to just let everybody know about, like a reminder that, the pets, well, we won't do that. We have the work session, but in December, the tree lighting, we can make an announcement in November, to that effect. So feel free to utilize that. The only other question I have for you is this beach cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
You have people doing cleanups and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Are we getting a legal release from these people for their participation in this?
This is the first that's ever been mentioned to me, so no.
It should be mentioned. City attorney, should we not be doing a legal release? If people are going to do it, you do a legal release when you have a road race. We did a legal release for the bounce house. What about it?
You certainly could do a release if some people are going to be doing something where somebody could slip and fall, somebody could get hit by a car or that sort of thing. So I would, if you, I've not talked to Lynn about it, I'm sure there's been other instances or situations where the city's used a general participation type release. If not, I know I've done it for my other city, and it's something that you could easily incorporate into your events.
And it could be a one-time thing for a person. You don't have to do it each time, but just to cover us in case somebody's picking up something and they have a nail go through their arm or something like that. I mean, that they're volunteering here. It is a city event, so we do have liability at this point. Plus we're in, it kind of gets a little funky if we have somebody outside of the city helping out, because then we're in the lots. Somebody came and talked about liability earlier in those lots where we right now have the legal obligation for what's happening in those lots, the parking and anything that goes on, actually.
Okay, well, as far as the advertising of the events, they've all been on the city website for months. So if you go under Park and Rec and you click it, you'll see it. There's a sign-up sheet, there's a scroll, my name and numbers in like 3 different places. So all of these things have been on there, and then as we get closer, Patty will put them on the front page kind of flashing. But when they're a couple months out, we only have them, and they've been there for probably the last 6 months. So if they are there, and we do utilize what we have. And what's great about, I know, like, however, and wherever you stood on, the sign that's going in the front, the sign will save, like there were $1,500 in our budget that we had to spend doing the mailers and the signs, which we no longer have to do because we can post these things hopefully on the sign out front, as opposed to spending money. And because not everybody goes to our website and looks under Park and Rec, so yeah, it's a good way to see it. And like, we did put a big sign up, but obviously people don't always go like this, but if it's a flashing sign closer to the street, they might, be more apt to see it, so that's good. And then as far as the liability form, I have no problem with that. And as long as, it's pretty much the same 25 people, and sometimes they come and sometimes they don't, if they sign the form once. So it really, it's just you're worried about what's happening in the parking lot, because if they're down on the beach,
Everything.
it's not
I mean,
us.
it's parking lot, you step 1 foot on the sand in Bel Air Shore, you're on private property, let's just insulate ourselves. The city manager will give you a standard release. It's nothing, we're not reinventing the wheel here. It's something simple. You've probably signed hundreds of them for any event that you did. I bet if you go to that yoga class, there's a release there.
Oh, there is, yeah,
I
that's
bet
fine.
I knew there would be.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So that's all we need. It came to mind, and thankfully, everything's really went well, so.
Yeah, it has. Okay, perfect,
Great.
that's no problem.
So any comments from the citizens? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, have a good night.
Planning and zoning? There is
Mayor,
no-
Chair Infeld said that he had no report.
No report, okay. All right, public hearing, item 5. This is consideration of ordinance 21-07, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to section 18-5 of the City Code of Ordinances pertaining to time for qualifying, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of an amendment to section 18-5 of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This is the second reading. This is to amend the 2022 municipal election qualifying dates due to holiday schedule and the Pinellas Supervisor of Elections schedule. I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Frank Bankert.
Second.
Second by Dave Gaddis. I'll open for discussion. Frank?
Speaks for itself, the ordinance.
Anyone else on council? Citizens, any comments on this ordinance? Back to council with the last word going to Frank. Okay. Item 5 before us is consideration of ordinance 21-07, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to section 18-5 of the City Code of Ordinances pertaining to time for qualifying, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of an amendment to section 18-5 of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This is the second reading. Patty, it was advertised, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, please call the roll.
Councilmember Aki,
Aye.
Councilmember Bankert,
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn,
Aye.
Councilmember Notero, Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gaddis,
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye, passes 7-0. This is now approved. Item 6, consideration of ordinance 21-08, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to section 2-63D of the City Code of Ordinances pertaining to addressing City Council, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of amendment to section 2-63D of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This is the second reading. Patty, it has been advertised, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll enter, this is discussion of pending this pertains to discussion of pending litigation or prospective litigation. It's originally related to the issue that I had. There was a city attorney memo, and I'm going to turn it over to him at some point, but let's first have that motion. So I had a tie here. I'm going to go with Dave Gaddis. I think I heard him first, and Glenn Dunn was second. To you, Dave.
I'd like to make a motion to table this for the next work session.
Second.
Second by Frank Bankard. I believe there's a discussion on that. Hang on. It is not debatable. Okay, so a majority ruling on this will, majority ruling will table this. We'll come to the council. Let's call the roll, if we will, Patty, on a motion to table. So what's before us is to table this to the next work session. That's really on the recommendation of the city manager, the city attorney. Patty?
Councilmember Bankard,
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn,
Nay.
Councilmember Notero,
Aye.
Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
Councilmember Aki,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gaddis,
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye. So by a vote of 6-1, this is the motion to table passes, and this will be tabled until the next work session. Okay, the consent agenda. What remains on the consent agenda is item 7, is approval. Oh, I'm sorry. Take that back. What remains is my mistake. I asked to move item 8, 9, and 10. I have no issue with that. Maybe it was 7 that I have the issue with. I had a question. My mistake. 8's been moved, I don't have any question on it. So 7 is what I had the question on. So item 7 is on the consent agenda. It's approval of the September 8th, 2021 City Council meeting and first budget public hearing minutes. We have a motion?
So moved.
Gaddis? Second by, is that Rita? Yes. Your mic wasn't on. Okay, it's consent agenda. There's no discussion on it. This is a approval of the September 8th, 2021 City Council meeting and first budget public hearing minutes. A yes vote approves that. I'll do a voice vote on this. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? 7-0, it passes. Those minutes are approved. Patty, my only question was, and I will ask it to you during the, just in case I forget, was the inclusion of the memo that I had given you. I didn't see it on ours, but I think you usually put it in the back on the actual copy.
Correct, I have it in the book.
That's what I thought, so that answered the question. Item 8, I asked to move. My mistake, folks, sorry, I really have no question. Item 8 is approval of the September 20th, 2021 final budget public hearing minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Leslie Terra and Dave Gaddis will be second. Leslie? I don't have one, so anybody else on council? Citizen comments? Back to here. Leslie, last word, any? No? Okay. So before us is approval of the September 20th, 2021 final budget public hearing minutes. The yes vote will approve this. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Item 9. This is approval of the September 20th, 2021 work session minutes. I did ask to move this and I did have some questions, but first let's get a motion.
So moved.
Gaddis. Second.
Second.
Second, Rodanaki. Dave?
I have no comment right now.
Okay. So my comment was this, the reason why, let me get right to the item here. The reason why I put item 4 on the agenda initially was to resolve some of the questions that we had, which we did on that meeting, but I don't think it was really reflected in these minutes. And I'll give you some of the areas that I didn't really think got a lot of coverage here that probably should have. One of them was the ability of the code officer to talk freely with any member of council or the citizens. And we heard from Captain Minor saying that of course he could, and that should be the way he conducts himself. We also, the focus was to make sure that the code officer and that the city manager was aware that our focus is on compliance, not a crackdown on code. Again, I go back to what Mike Liner said, he's never met a mayor or a council that said, let's crack down and make tickets and money off our citizens. So that didn't get reflected in here, and I thought it should have. And again, these are my personal opinions, but I think this stuff should be in there. I believe the word sensible code enforcement is what we were using, and that's what we've been doing, and I want to make sure it's been stressed, that that's where we're supposed to be at. The code officer is supposed to be at our meetings. We're going right now temporarily to a 20-hour code enforcement work week. We used to have 8, well, we used to have 12, then we had 8, now we're up to 20. And we want to see how that's working out, and there's no mention of it in here. And also that he's going to come starting with November. We didn't say do it this month, but he was supposed to come and make the presentation right after, or during the sheriff's presentation. The sheriff will do the crime in the city, and then have our code officer have the opportunity to speak with us. So that really was something that we asked to start happening in November. And finally, I didn't see reflected in here anything about the ride-alongs. Even though right now they're suspended due to COVID, as soon as the opportunity comes up again, the city council members have been invited to participate, not participate in enforcement, but to see what the code enforcement, a day in the life of, if you will, sit in the truck and see what he's going through, how he's spending his time, what do you see when you're going around town, that type of thing. And I haven't seen that reflected in here. So my request is that we revise the minutes to add some of that stuff in, because to me that was the most important stuff. That's why I called it. I think what we got in here was just, a lot of stuff that we probably already knew. But we did affirm where we're supposed to be going on it. So that was my takeaways from this, and even if it's not in there, I think it should at least be highlighted that those were the concerns, and that's what I was raising. Anyone else on council? Citizens? Back to council. So I'm going to ask that either we voluntarily do it, or we can entertain a motion, or we could have incomplete minutes. I'm going to have a problem if we have incomplete minutes, but I think we should either table this one or move it to, or revise it. I don't think we can pass it the way it is. That's my feeling.
Are you
Right.
asking for a motion?
I'll entertain a motion, or I'll make it myself if we have to do it. I'm just trying to avoid passing the gavel
I'll make a
thing. So
motion.
go ahead, Frank.
I'll make a motion to enter.
Table it.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Good. Get a second.
I'm sorry, motion to enter what?
Table? Just table the approval. Table the approval pending, maybe just have another listen to that tape maybe and see if what I was recalling is, what if you think those are highlights.
Okay, I don't put every statement that everyone makes. We're trying to pare the minutes down to as close to action minutes as we can, but I'll do whatever council wants to do. But can you tell me specifically, does council saying they want exactly what you said previously? Because I can go back and listen to that. I just need to know what to enter to do it.
I'm just saying, to me, that was the salient issues. That's why I brought it.
No, it's okay.
I thought
I
those
just,
were the key things that were the takeaways, and I really would like it reflected in the minutes.
right.
To me, that's what was the most important, because there's missing stuff on these minutes. I'm not saying it was intentional, but I don't think it was toss-away stuff. I think it was important. That was the whole reason I brought it. If you look back to what my concerns were that were enumerated when I brought it, and I would like those concerns, we did address every one of them, and I think council was in pretty much agreement. I don't think we were disagreeing at all that night.
Right, I'm just asking if that's what the motion was, to do
It
exactly.
was just a table and have you take another look at it, but I kind of just gave you what I was looking for. Maybe other people have some other recollections or something they wanted put in, or Maybe I just thought
Right.
something was important and they didn't think it was, but, you know, we could debate it.
And that's my question.
Yeah, not on the table, so, but,
Okay, yeah.
well, I can go over, I did not re-listen to it, I just remember it from how I
Yeah.
wrote it.
No, I can listen to it, I just want to make sure that the motion, I understand the motion so that I can do what the motion was. And the motion was to do all the points that you mentioned
No, it's
previously.
just to table it till you can go back and see if
And
that,
just listen to it?
listen to it and add that if you know, if, then bring it back to us again with a little fuller. Confused?
I'm not clear.
Okay,
What do we want to add? That's what I really need to know
but
when I
I
listen.
can only speak on what I wanted to add was the
Mayor,
4 or 5
point of
things.
order. I'll
There's not supposed to be any discussion.
I'll
It's a
talk to
motion.
Patty, I know what you're asking.
You're right, there's not supposed to be discussion on motion to table. So we
We'll
have
take care.
to vote on that. So that motion is valid. Let's do a voice, I'm not gonna do a voice vote, let's call the roll on this one. This is the motion to table only, okay? Then you and I can go over, I'll talk with you, how's that?
Okay,
Okay? At least what I was looking for, and if people don't like it, they can strike it out that next time, okay?
okay.
So motion to table, this is tabling it only. Okay? No, it's already seconded, if Patty's gonna call the roll for motion to table.
Do you want the roll call?
Yes, please, for the motion to table.
Councilmember Aki?
Aye.
Councilmember Banker?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Nay.
Councilmember Notero? Councilmember Swope?
Nay.
Vice Mayor Gaddis?
Nay?
Mayor Manzo?
Aye, so it's tabled, it's 4-3 vote. And Patty, I will, if you want to listen to it, and if you even want to just tell me the things, you know, you're thinking about, I'll do a fast phone call with you. I think it's probably, you know, I just gave you the items, so you can listen to this one, but we can go through it again if you want. And then they can edit it if necessary. Sorry. Okay, that's 9. Item 10, authorize the city manager to advertise for a Alita Drive drainage repair. This is authorization to advertise for repair to reduce street flooding. Do I have a motion first?
So moved.
Gaddis, second. Second by Leslie Notero. Dave?
Defer to the city manager on this.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we've got a drainage issue on Alita Drive. It's about 200 feet of pipe that we need to put in to bring it to a storm drain inlet. And so what I'm asking is authorization to advertise for that repair to be done. And what it'll entail, it'll go along the new curb, we'll put in a pipe on the outside of the curb. We'll take the water from the area that's in question down to the stormwater inlet underground, so the water issue on that street in that area is gone.
The reason why I moved this into discussion, I don't know, maybe my eyes are going at 63, but I can't see this. Okay, this is like in microfiche, if anybody remembers.
That's what they sent it to us, unfortunately.
So that's why I needed you to explain it, so.
Yeah, it's a couple hundred feet of pipe that we're gonna put along the curb to run it into an inlet. So there'll be an inlet at, I'm blanking the address, but there'll be an inlet, then go down the street to the stormwater box, and it'll go back into that. Because there's an issue just in this, actually it's in really more in front of two properties on the, let's see, it'll be on the north side of the street. So this is the way to fix it. We had the engineer look at it. We did a survey, did the elevations so we can get the water flowing. A lot of the water that goes there is from irrigation lines, irrigation. People are irrigating, so it stays there all the time. So we're gonna try to
It's
fix it.
puddling up, it's pooling up, is what.
And when it rains, it stays and gets into the middle of the street. We want to fix that.
Council?
Is it just 2 homes?
It's two homes that it's puddling in front of, but we need to get it to the stormwater inlet.
The only thing I'd like to add is there's a house on Fifth Street, a resident reached out to me, I think with some of other council, that I call Miami curbs. I think it needs to be shaped down to get rid of their water. I think if we're doing something like this, we ought to be addressing that one too.
Yeah, the one on Fifth Street, you said?
Fifth Street. Yes, Fifth Street.
I don't know about that one,
I'll send you.
the Andrews.
I'll give you one, right in front of my house. Ever since they replaced the valley curbs a couple of years ago, I could play billiards at cell level in front of my house. The water actually pools up and it evaporates. And that's fun in the middle of Florida summers when it's really gross. I mean, it's just smelly and dirty and there's no pitch. There was, but there isn't anymore. So the guys, when they installed it, didn't pitch it. So it's probably the same, it sounds like the same thing Frank was talking about. And it's not like it's flooding into the street, but it's probably breeding mosquitoes.
No, and that's exactly what it is. It just lays right in front of that property because the curb's actually a little bit low.
Well, your curbs were probably replaced 5 or 6 years ago, at least.
It's not under warranty, but it wasn't noticeable at first, but it definitely happens. So anyway, okay. Citizen comments on item 10. Yes, sir.
Ron Saganek, Nano Drive, and I appreciate the city looking at this because after the most recent paving, on a bad rainstorm, you can't, doing your nightly neighborhood walks, you can't even pass down the street. The street's flooded completely
You're
across.
from Donato, as I recall, right? So now we're hearing 5th Street, Donato.
No. I'm talking this Alita.
Oh, you see, Alita,
It's the
okay.
Alita.
Oh, okay. I
If
thought
you
you were
walk
saying
the
a new street.
neighborhood,
Okay.
you cannot pass through Alita.
Any citizen comments?
We're talking, Jim Vanscoy, 7th Street, Florida Beach. We're talking about drainage. This retention pond across this street, which is owned by the county, hasn't been dug out for about 4 or 5 years. And they said that all they needed was a call from the city manager and they would come out and do it for free because they own it. And I noticed water pooling on the street behind, I don't know what is that, 13th Street? 13th Street all the time, and if water's pooling, it's going to start affecting the pavement and so forth, which is an expense to the city. And if the county's willing to clean out the retention pond, and it is theirs, I say go for it. It doesn't cost us anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizens? Council? If Gaz, you have the last word when we're all done.
I recommend that we vote for this.
So what we have is item 10, to authorize the city manager to advertise for Alita Drive drainage repair. I'll do a voice vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have anyone opposed? 7-0. And you got a few more there to look into, Mr. Reeves, but that's not part of the resolution. All right, regular agenda now. This is consideration of ordinance 21-09, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to section 30-141 of the City Code of Ordinances pertaining to the Gulf of Mexico Safety Zone, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of an amendment to section 30-141 of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for a copy be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. The description is to create a designated safety zone within the corporate boundaries of the city, and I'll just add the city of Bel Air Beach. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Rita Swope makes the motion. Second?
Second.
Second by Dave Gaddis. Rita Swope.
I'll go ahead and defer to the city manager.
City manager?
Yes, this is a discussion we've been having and to amend our ordinance so it comes into compliance with the Florida statutes. And we've sent this to the state for them to review it. We had to make a couple changes to it. We edited that, and this is what they approved going forward. And we'll have to, once the second reading is done, we'll have to restick our buoys, but we won't have to move any.
You said re-sticker them? So we just have to get new language, put it on the... Okay.
Right.
And I have one question for you, because this is the first I've really read this. I never engaged in any of this activity, so it was just one of those things I never had to pay attention to. But we talk about no vessels of any type in the swim area. And now we're talking Bel Air Beach, folks, because Frank Bankert has done a lot of work with Bel Air Shore and trying to work that. This is just our city limits, so we're only talking our beach now. So what about somebody wants to launch, I see these people launching like a paddle board or a, inflatable kayak or something like that. It doesn't really define what vessels mean. I mean, we don't want motorboats, clearly. We don't want jet skis. We don't want sailboats and big stuff like that. But what about a smaller thing? Is there a carve out for that? Or do we not want it at all?
Well, I don't think technically paddle boards would fall under a vessel. There is really no carve out because what the push is to make sure that we make it a swim area, so no one can come in there with motorized or non-motorized, like a sailboat or something like that.
The reason why I ask is it does talk about no vessels of any type, but it also says operation of watercraft, and I certainly would argue that any of those, lesser harmful things are water. Now, I don't want to be hitting the head with a sailboard either, okay? Those things hurt too. And maybe we just don't want them, or maybe we want to have a designated area where you can launch them, but I hate to be so restrictive because, I do know a lot of people like to use them, and, are we going to just say no to that? And that's a council's decision, but. Fred, you look like you want to say something, or do you want to jump in, or if not, I'll get back to you, circle back.
I really don't want to say anything other than the ordinance was written to be consistent with the Florida statute, and then there's administrative code provisions, and there's several different categories, and the most restrictive one was the no vessel, and that's, you're meeting all the requirements to do that, and that's to make that area an area for swimming and really nothing else. So I'm looking now to see if I can find the administrative code provision that maybe has the definition of watercraft, but that'll take me a minute.
Okay. Leslie wanted to speak. Go ahead, Leslie.
The same thing came to mind when I read it. Can you go out on a paddleboard? Can you take your kayak out there? Can I take my blow-up raft out there?
It's a watercraft.
And then you got a watercraft. What is a watercraft? And also, the old version had the no-wake zone that says a watercraft intending to anchor at a location within the defined safety zone may proceed at idle speed. And this eliminates that, apparently. You can't come in at idle speed and anchor there, or come in to get the family that's on the beach to come out, and I have a real problem with that.
Council, any other comments?
I was, whenever I was participating with the beach cleanup, I looked down Bel Air Beach, I looked at our shoreline. I didn't really see a problem with it. We had buoys everywhere, and it was clearly marked. I understand the need for this, but I'm also wondering if we're not over-restricting ourselves. So that's my input on it.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the over-restricting now.
Well, if we're not being very clear about what a vessel is and what type of vehicles can be used on the beach, I might be one of those people that wants to pick up my family. So do I want them swimming all the way out to the buoy? Probably not.
So I understand that. So you're in agreement with myself and Leslie. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make a criminal out of, I don't want somebody, I don't see too many people, there used to be a thing called windsurfing. I don't see too much of that anymore. But you can go really fast with that, and they probably shouldn't be doing it. But somebody kayaking, or like Dave Gaddis is talking about, if you're coming straight in, at basically a no-wake speed, and you're picking somebody up, I mean, you're not boating in the area. You are, but you're not. I just don't want to, I don't want to be like some cities that ban everything, and then you can't do anything and you can't have fun in the water. Obviously, no one's advocating that motorboats or jet skis should be running up and down at full throttle or anything close to it. But I don't want, Leslie goes out on a raft and somebody comes along and says, you got a watercraft. That's not what this is intended for.
Well, I think just to clarify something, the issue, right now, they can come in there idle speed, okay? But the issue is, that keeps being brought up is, well, the idle speed guy might speed up, and we can't control that, you know? If the council wants to do something else, that's fine. I'm just trying to, Councilmember Banker brought up the issue with the buoys. We've got to get ourselves in compliance, and with the statute that changed some 10 years ago, and whatever we want to make it, if you make it a, what is it, idle speed or something like that, then you still got the same problem with the boats. So, you know, you're not going to win either way.
Great.
Okay, I'm looking at the administrative code provision that includes definitions, and there are several definitions of different classes of prohibitions. So let me read just a couple of them. One is no power-driven vessels. Another one is no internal combustion motors or no motor zone. There's also a vessel exclusion zone, and that includes no motorized vessels or manually propelled vessels. So there's all sorts of different classifications, and the most restrictive is the no vessel, which establishes the swim area, and that's to achieve the objective that Councilmember Banker was most concerned about, which is anything being in that area. So if you want to recede from that slightly, you can. You can use one of the other classifications if that's what you want to do. But that's a decision that council would need to make, and ultimately the choice that you make for the ordinance would have to be correspondent with the manner in which the buoy is labeled.
Frank, you are probably, you know, the most expert of everyone on this council, just due to the amount of efforts and research you put in. You know, again, we all know, you know, motorized, you know, heavy motorized thing, that's what we don't want. We don't want somebody killed. But if you get hit in the head with a kayak, you're not going to get killed. You might not want to get hit in the head with a kayak either. So I guess I'm asking you, you've done a lot of research, what have you seen out there? Is there, you know, do other cities just ban it entirely? I know across the street bans it entirely, but what have you seen in other places?
Well, first of all, to clarify this, I brought up the removal of the buoys from First Street at Bel Air Shores to 17th, well, there isn't on 17th Street because of a safety issue. I have a problem with this whole ordinance because last month it was brought up that other towns are being looked at now to have it corrected. So I went to the FWC, I asked them, that's Florida Wildlife Conservancy Commission, asked for a public record of any towns being addressed since I think June 1st or whatever, to change their ordinance like they're forcing us. They sent me 3 links which were corrupt, okay? But again, being retired, I think I was able to crack some of these links. But I asked again to have it sent in a PDF, since the PDF is supposed to be a government software item to review. Nothing but crickets. So here's the big problem of equal protection under the law. Why are we being picked on? All right? Look, I would love to see all the motorized watercraft staying out. I got a picture. I was in my office today, 6th Street Beach. Okay? That's my name. She's a doctor. She could attest.
It is your name.
Okay? All right? This boat was 10 feet fishing, motorized and pulling all the way up through Bel Air Beach. Okay, today. All right? 2 fishermen, they weren't paying attention. One of the residents came up and said, "Excuse my friends, what the hell is this going?" All right? "Do you need pictures?" I said, "I already got it." So, no one was really in order today in my area. Up there was, but again, why are we being picked on? and other communities are not. Of course, this statute was changed over 10 years ago. I only wanted the safety zone put back that protects the people that live from First Street at Bel Air Beach to 20th Sun Street that go on that beach, all right? FWC's ignorance of their own permit approval that they don't want to admit to, and I've asked to speak at their commissioners meeting this week, has now turned the page and says, okay, we're going to stick it to you this way by making you change your buoys and nobody else's. So that's what I have a big problem with. And I think we should be looking in maybe a legal action against them for allowing, permits have to be inspected every 3 years. It was changed in 2010, so at least 3 years, or at least 3 inspections went by, and they approved an illegal permit. So, is it a hazard out there? Yeah, it's a big hazard from 1st to 17th Street. A letter went out indicating last month we put a buoy at 6th Street, we put a buoy at 12th Street. That will cure a lot of the problems, I believe, but it won't make it an entire safe area for our residents.
But this is just, I mean, and you know, what you're doing is incredible to try for the safety of this community, because we have every right to be on the 6th Street, 12th Street, and 18th Street beaches, even though it's a different city, we have the rights to be there, and we are unprotected right now. But this is about from 18th, really from 18th Street north. So I guess the question comes to council is, how restrictive do you want to be? Okay, we have total restriction. And I'll, you know, so I'm not leveraging anything. Bel Air Shore completely bans everything. If you take a paddleboard out, which one of their commissioners admitted to doing, you're breaking their law. Okay? If you take a kayak out, you're breaking their law. I've seen people go out there with paddleboards. You know, it happens. Okay? We don't permit it apparently either. Now the question is, do we want to, or do we not want to? I don't want anybody coming back and say the mayor wants motorboats. No, I don't. Okay? Dave Gaddis is responsible. I think he would come in at the right speed. Some of these other guys that have the music that you could hear from 4 blocks away and are, you know, drinking it up, I don't know that they'd be quite as responsible. So I'm almost tempted to say, sorry, you know, unfortunately Dave winds up getting restricted because he could be responsible and the other people won't be responsible. But you're going to survive a hit with a kayak probably. You're not going to survive it with a motorboat, or you're not going to survive a jet ski. You know, and I swim in those waters. So.
And ordinances are created for the unresponsible. I mean, a resident sent me an email Sunday regarding an accident just happened last November. Kids were out on a boat, but it was on the intercoastal, no wake zone. He floored it, I guess. Knocked 7 people out of the boat, and 1 kid, 16-year-old daughter, or 16-year-old girl died. Not responsible. Underage drink. I mean, we can't prohibit, we can't, you know, get away from all these types of accidents, but I think we should stiffen up our policies. And look, if that's the law, that's the law too.
Yeah.
Yes, Glenda.
You know, you may need to make a reference to other areas because the FWC may have no jurisdiction in these kind of issues. I mean, they give permits for certain areas, but so far as enforcement of operation of watercraft and vehicles, that may fall within the purview of the Marine Patrol and somebody else. And I think you may need to look for references in the Florida statutes or other areas to define watercraft and vessels, and I think you're going to find an association with the Florida registration numbers and that sort of things. To be concerned about some of these motorized boats may be a red herring also. I don't know if anybody stood on the beach and watched a kiteboard or a windsurfer, and there's other things you need to be looking at because there are people who are operating those things a hell of a lot more recklessly than people who operate in large boats. So, I mean, there are some unexpected consequences to some of this stuff, and I think you need to look at the big picture and kind of expand your search because there's different rights bowls and people have different responsibilities in the government agencies.
Any other council comments? Citizens, I'd like to hear from you. Anybody have any comments on this issue? Yes, Debbie Moore. Yes, please come up. Yep. This way it's on the mic. Yep.
I think there's some other things that we might need to consider so that we're not coming back to this issue in a year. First, I do paddleboard, and I do paddleboard off the 12th Street. I just do. But I think that paddleboards and kayaks probably are not, you have a little more control over those. I also have a kite, but I quit kiting here years ago because it's not safe. There's better places. So I think the issues that I see, because I run that beach every day, that we need to be concerned about, and Glenn was right, absolutely windsurfers and kiteboarders are dangerous. I don't know if y'all are familiar with foiling. I have probably half a dozen times stopped foilers in Bel Air Beach who are out there on a crowded Saturday and said, there are no motorized vehicles allowed, you guys you can't be out there on those. And there's tons of kids out there playing and swimming, and these guys don't know what the heck they're doing, they're learning how to do it. And it's dangerous. So I think that we, might have to address foiling specifically, or at least motorized, that would fall under a motorized vehicle.
You define foiling for everybody who doesn't know what it is.
So it's a windsurfer, it's a kiteboard, they have hydrofoils on them, so they go above the water and they can go very fast. It just makes it, it shortens the learning curve and it's a little easier to operate and you can go a lot faster. But I don't think personally that they belong in an area where there's people swimming. I know that I'm not going to hurt someone with my paddleboard, but like you said about Dave Gaddis, we're probably a little more conscientious than maybe some other people out there. But foiling's dangerous with swimmers. So I think we need to at least look at that.
Roger?
Hi everyone, I'm Roger Mall, I live at 115 Causeway. I don't have any information about where I really studied this, but just listening to the discussion, it seems to me that what your role would be was to make sure that the safety of our community is utmost. And so I'm not sure if we got rid of all the buoys, but I did notice that there was not a lot of buoys out there. Now I had heard that was Bel Air Shore that did that. And then I was surprised to hear you say that they don't allow any motorized vehicles, because I've seen all sorts of their residents go right up to the beach, and they just seem to feel like they can do whatever they want. So it surprises me that that's the case. But if that is the case, I've been to many, many resorts, and what they do in this case is that they have the buoy markers out, and the buoys don't necessarily, to Dave's comment, doesn't say that it's safe to swim out to the buoys. What it says is no motorized vehicles can come in this way. And so then at least the motor community knows where the borderline is. And so if we're trying to make a safe community for everybody, it just seems prudent that we would have buoys up so that motorcraft can't come in and accidentally hit anybody, because that just sets up the safety zone. But if we want to have access for somebody to go out, I mean, we have several parking lot areas and then an beach area where we could just cordon off like other cities do, where they just have like a 20-foot wide area where they can take their sailboard out, or I actually don't. Paddleboards I don't have an issue with, I'd rather not see any of them go out, but I also think people want to go to the beach and have fun, so I don't really see that many people swimming in it, but I do see people desiring to kayak and paddleboard. For some reason, paddleboarding is popular right now. But I think the buoys are important because we don't want motorcraft going into a zone and accidentally hitting anybody. And that just sets up a safe perimeter. So I would go with you, Frank. I think the buoys are a good idea. But thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Any other citizen comments? Jim?
Jim Vanscoy, 7th Street. I was at Clearwater Beach just recently, and they actually had poles set in the water with those safety signs on. So what is the difference between that and a buoy. And maybe that could be a possibility, and just have a permanent structure out there. And then we're just replacing a sign. And that way we aren't going back and forth with the buoy issue. It's something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick?
Rick Shock, 115 13th Street. I've lost track of exactly where we're going with this conversation, but I'm a U.S. Coast Guard captain, and there are Florida state laws which direct how close powercraft and powered boats can come to the shore. So I spend a lot of time on the water. I do charters, and I'm also a trainer. And we can put up all the signs we want, and that isn't going to improve anyone's boating behavior. So, like Vice Mayor Gaddis, I think it would be nice to be able to idle in, since I own a power boat, and pick up some friends or family or whatever, and use the water. But you know, people are going to do what people are going to do, and we can put all the signs, all the buoys up there, and they're still going to go flying through there. So, I'm not an advocate of laws and ordinances that can't be enforced. Unless we have someone standing out there, you know, going to write down the FL number, and then you can try to deal with the FWC, Marine Patrol, Coast Guard, you're going to get no action out of them. They're undermanned, understaffed, and overworked, and probably underpaid. So if the goal here is to try to protect swimmers, I think there's also some responsibility on the swimmers' part to be aware of what's going on. So, you know, we're trying to cover ourselves from a legal standpoint. We've got to do what we've got to do, but understand our statutes there, and we can put everything up, and people are still going to drive the boats the way they drive the boats. So, I hope we can come to a reasonable agreement so that responsible boaters can use their boats, something as simple as idle speed inside the buoys, like if you drive around Clearwater Beach in that area. They have all kinds of very specific buoys there, special purpose buoys which tell you what you can and can't do. So I just hope we're reasonable with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Come back to council after debate. Read the last word. So,
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay. Rest of council. Go ahead.
I just want to say, Rick made some great points there. I tried to drive that home about the personal responsibility and the false sense of security. And my analogy is the bike lanes on the bridge there. There's a little thin painted line that says bike lane is not going to protect you. All you got to do is look at the curbs there and look at the skid marks and go up on the curb there as you drive across the bridge. And that drives home the point. So it's a false sense of security and personal responsibility goes a long ways. Thanks.
Glenn, by the way, I took you up on that offer. I'll never ride a bike on that bridge. I mean, there's marks all over the place. You take your life into your hands. But that aside, where I was coming from with this thing, and we kind of got a little bit into some discussions, but right now, the way I read this, you really, you know, we heard some people, they have a paddleboard. Leslie might want to take a raft out. I have a kayak. I've taken it in the beach once, okay? But you can't do that the way I read this, okay? So it's okay if that's what we wanted to say as council. All watercraft, all vessels are going to be prohibited, and I'll argue that all of this stuff, I don't think a little kid's raft is going to be a big issue, but any other watercraft, if you're sitting on it, you're standing on it, it's a watercraft. So if we want to say no to all of that, which is probably what it says already, but if we're going to continue with that, that's fine. We just need to know that's what we're voting for. If we want to have carve-outs, and like the captain is talking about, you know, there are places where there's designated stuff. I've been to resorts where they have jet skis going off from the resort, but it comes through in a certain area. It doesn't come through any place else. And you're not going horizontal to the coastline. You come in straight in. In fact, if you do anything else, they'll throw you out of the resort. So it's, you know, it's just a question of what we want. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but I don't want to see somebody innocently taking a paddleboard out and then they get nailed. I understand enforcement is basically non-existent, but it's still going to, if we put it on the books, it's a law, and, you know, then you're subject to everything that goes with it. Dave, and then Fred, okay?
I think that there are some valuable efforts made here that are needed just to bring us into compliance with our buoys. But I think also it's a little gray and possibly a little overreaching. I think that this needs work.
Frank, you're looking next, yes.
Well, let me read to you several things so that everybody here understands what's being discussed. In section 30-141A, which is the code provision we're dealing with, it says designated. There is created a designated safety zone within the corporate boundaries of the city, extending 100 yards from the shoreline into the Gulf of Mexico and running parallel to the city's shoreline along the Gulf of Mexico. The designated safety zone shall be a public bathing beach, and all vessels of any type are prohibited from entering the marked area within the designated safety zone. The language that is in that provision, and there's more later on, but that's the language that's consistent with the statute and the administrative code. So let me go again to the administrative code, and I'm going to read to you two of the categories that I had mentioned a few minutes ago. First category is no power-driven vessels. That is defined by all vessels equipped with any mechanical means of propulsion must turn off the mechanical means of propulsion and, if possible, to do so, tilt or raise the mechanical means of propulsion out of the water. The use of any motor, including an electric motor, is prohibited. The next one is no internal combustion motors or no motor zone, which is all vessels equipped with internal combustion motors, e.g. gasoline or diesel motors, for propulsion must turn off the internal combustion motor and, if possible to do so, tilt or raise the internal combustion motor out of the water. The use of electric motors is not prohibited. And underneath the provision for vessel exclusion zone, they define manually propelled vessels only, which is all vessels other than those propelled by oars, paddles, or poles are prohibited from entering the marked area. Vessels equipped with sails or a mechanical means of propulsion may enter the marked area only if the sails or mechanical means of propulsion is not in use, and if possible to do so, the mechanical means of propulsion is tilted or raised out of the water. So there are several different categories that you could select to achieve whatever you want to achieve, and your buoy will have to have a corresponding designation with it. And if you want to change it, you certainly are able to do that. The thing that I will tell you, Lynn and I did several drafts of this document and sent it to the agency ahead of time. They gave us feedback 2 different times, and what we were trying to do is present something that they had already approved, so that if the council approved it, then we knew, hopefully that they would approve it the final time. If y'all want to change it, my suggestion would be to consider one of those other categories, and instead of passing anything tonight, give us direction on how you want to change it, then Lynn and I would revise it and send it back to them to go through with this again. One of the times that we sent it in, or with the no vessel designation, they sent it back and said, no vessels mean basically no vessels, nothing. So that is the most exclusive or exclusionary category, and the practical comments that have been made, I'm not going to discount at all. Those are practical comments, and they're probably valid. What you're trying to do is make whatever buoy designation you select consistent so that you comply with state law and you achieve what Frank has been trying to achieve all along, which is the highest degree of safety for the people in the community.
For that, and we can't fix this tonight because this is an ordinance change, so it's advertised, it's put out, so we would have to take this back to a work session. Now, when you were reading those different possibilities, the third one I was listening to, and I'm like, yeah, that's very good. That's very reasonable. It allows you to get that paddle board in the raft, and it doesn't, if you got a canoe and oars, you're good. but that's a lot to fit on a buoy, you know, so, as opposed to no vessels. So, you know, I don't want this to get overcomplicated, because we don't like that, right? But then, you know, we don't have to go, we have to decide as a council whether how restrictive we want to be. I just think, I'll take the vote on it tonight. I think we've debated this quite a bit. I mean, again, we can keep going around, but if we're thinking about changing it, we might want to either, if we turn it down, it'll go back to work session for more work. I think we need to pass something, but I don't know that, I'm probably not going to vote for this the way it is, because I think it is too over-restrictive. I want to see, again, I have no dog in the fight, but I saw a guy with an inflatable paddleboard the other day, and he was falling off it, and he was having a fun time trying to stand on it. And I'm like, that looks like fun. And I don't see that you should not be allowed to do that. If you have common sense, go away from people and go out and launch it on Bel Air Beach. We've got a lot of space there. You know, I go fishing sometimes. I don't fish in the middle of the easement or our property. I walk down 3 or 4 houses so I don't throw hooks into people's head. I've been hooked with people that are less intelligent, okay? Because they'll throw the stuff out. They don't care. But, you know, again, it goes back to responsibility. To me, it looks like it should go to a work session, but we'll do what the council wants to do, but we're coming around for debate again. Right?
I'd like to table this until other towns are subjected to the same procedures that we are, by the FWC.
It can be tabled until somebody brings it back up. We can't, I mean, anybody on the council could bring it back up in another work session or motion. So you can table it for tonight if you can get the votes, but if that's what the motion you want to
I'll
make.
make a motion to table.
We have a motion to table. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second. There's no debate on it. Patty, let's take this one by voice, if we will. This is a motion to table. If we do, we'll table this to the next work session.
Councilmember Gunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Notaro?
Aye.
Councilmember Swope?
Aye.
Councilmember Aki?
Aye.
Councilmember Bankert?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gaddis?
Aye.
Mayor Manzo?
Aye. 7-0, the motion is tabled. This will come back at the next work session. That concludes our regular agenda. Item 12, do we have any unfinished business? City Attorney, item 13.
This may be controversial, but I'll suggest it anyway. On the inspiration of Councilmember Bankert, I recommend the council consider a policy for staff to wear relaxed clothing to city council meetings.
I'll second that.
Are you asking for yourself?
It's not a motion.
You don't have a dress code. Our staff. Are you talking staff? Lynn looks like he's pretty casual.
I'd rather be dressed like he is.
You can do that. It's okay. As long as you're comfortable.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. I do want to pick up on something that one of the citizens said. And I'm going to walk this line, maybe because it's a little controversial, but I'm going to walk it as mayor of the town and not as a litigant in a lawsuit. So she brought up an issue. We all know about this 60-ton crane that was in the parking lot.
100 ton.
How much? 100 ton?
Actually, 125.
And you know, when I got the enhanced digital photo of it, guess what? They were taking up two, you hear this, Sheriff? 2 handicap spots. 2. They're not even supposed to be taking up 1. And I can't believe that nobody saw that. So here's my situation. As the mayor, as a council member, my responsibility is for the safety of the city and the adherence to our contracts. And if you read the interlocal agreement, which I probably have memorized at this point, the interlocal agreement makes us, at Bel Air Beach, indemnify Bel Air Shore for all liability that occurs on the 6th Street, 12th Street, and 18th Street easements. There is no way even if they have the right, which is the topic of the lawsuit, that we'll deal with in court, but even if they have the right with a liability kick-out like that to Bel Air Beach, there's no way any crane should ever be there. There's no way NFL Films should be there unless we're making our people cleaning up the beach sign a release. There should have been a release and probably an insurance policy that named us as named beneficiary. we could be talking serious death with a crane, okay? Not to mention the fact that they broke one of the real rules you're not ever supposed to break. I mean, what if a person who had a disability comes to that beach and there's a crane in their spot? Not cool. So that's an aside, but the liability issue is a city issue. We have an interlocal agreement, which we have agreed to pick up basically and indemnify Bel Air Shore. And if they're gonna park cars there, which they intend to do, let me tell you, they will park cars until next July when we get a decision in this lawsuit. They're gonna keep parking their cars there. So the question is, we have an indemnification thing. If somebody parks their Maserati there, or they park their van from their mechanical company, and it gets dented, and Lynn reads the bill and say, Lynn, pay us. Why are we doing that? Why? So that's all I'm going to say. It's a city liability issue. I'm not going to vote on it if you bring something up anyway, but we do have a liability. I think you have a liability issue, so I just want to toss it to you for thoughts, comments, research. Table it. Yeah, just want to bring it up. A citizen brought it up.
You want me to comment on that?
If you care to, it's just there was a topic that was brought up and I thought it was valid.
At the last meeting, this topic was discussed, and if the city council wants to give direction to me, and I would suggest it be direction to myself and the city manager, we would address the issue and we would write an appropriate letter asking for the other city to comply with the agreement and comply with their code provision. If y'all want to direct me to do that, then that's fine.
I didn't ask for that. I just want to be really clear because that's the gist of what I'm saying.
Well,
but I'm asking
I'm
for
giving you a response to the
what
you presented.
I remember I said I was going to walk a fine line, so I'm going to keep walking that fine line. I was asking strictly about city indemnification. I'm worried about that we have an indemnification policy. Our expectation was that it was going to be Bel Air Beach residents only. The other city, I can tell you, I'm not letting any cat out of the bag, the other city does not believe that. They believe that irrespective of any ordinance they may have, that they can let anyone use that lot that they feel like. And they have. I've got a whole bunch of litigation documents that prove they did it. We've all witnessed it. Question is, now that we've graduated to cranes and semis, I was there for NFL films. I got pictures of the trucks. We're not talking about little, pickup trucks anymore. Not that I want to be hit by a pickup, but these were big trucks, and that surely was a big crane. So, that's what we're dealing with. The question is our indemnification for the city. Right now, the way I read that liability, it is solely our responsibility. And is that something that's sitting well with us given the way things are going from a liability standpoint? I don't know whether you tackle that thing. Somebody said, stop the interlocal agreement. I don't think that's a good idea, but we have a situation here where they're enjoying it and they're holding parties and they're holding fundraisers and they're holding, they have the wedding. I mean, so.
Well, I've read the indemnification provision a number of times. I don't remember it off the top of my head in a verbatim way that I can give you what I would say is very specific legal advice on it, other than I don't think the indemnification obligation is, normally when you indemnify somebody, it relates to your action, okay? And if another city is doing something, then I really don't see it as broadly as you probably do. But again, having said that, I think it is totally within reason to address a letter to the other city that has to deal with the lots and ask that they comply with the agreement and that they comply with their own code provision. Those two things are completely reasonable, in my opinion.
Council? Yeah, Glenn.
I was going to say my question for the city manager later, this is a good opportunity. I can cite verse and restriction for the safe operation of wide-body aircraft that are much bigger, much heavier than those cranes. But I know nothing about the operation of heavy equipment and cranes. So my question is really, we're talking about indemnification and responsibilities, and who's the deep pocket. My question is when it comes to the operation and certification and licensing and permitting of these equipment, what's there? I mean, when somebody shows up at our doorstep and says, you know, we need to bring in a crane to do something and we issue a permit, do we ask for bonding and insurance and what is out there? You know, when somebody comes knocking on our door, I imagine OSHA's involved in that stuff, the state licensing boards are involved in that stuff, and I imagine there's all kinds of other federal agencies that regulate and monitor the operation, safe operation of heavy equipment like that, like they do the FAA and that kind of thing. But my question is what is that order, that pecking order of whose responsibility when things go very bad and they start looking at throwing lawsuits around, what is the order? I mean, nothing protects us. They're going to come after everybody. But my question is, who's at the head of that pyramid, say, when it comes to responsibility and fiscal liability?
Well, the owner of the crane has some responsibility, and the operator, and that may be two different people, and whoever the contractor is. I mean, there's a number of potential defendants if something goes wrong. If it's the city-owned lot, then, or it's in trust, then there's potential liability there. There's those things that, heaven forbid, if a 100-pound or 120-ton train collapse or crane collapsed, there's going to be plenty of defendants to go around, and I don't think it inures to whoever allowed it to be done. I mean, my understanding is that the crane being there is one day the crane's suddenly there, and I'm unaware of the situation entirely, other than it was brought up at city council meeting before. So if they had a permit and the permit was issued from the other city, the question would be, was the permit issued consistent with their code provision and with the trust document, local agreement?
And I guess that's my point. This is a key learning point for us, and we don't even know what questions we probably should have asked. We don't know what we don't know, and that's why I'm saying this is a key learning point where we need to go back and say, what are those questions we should have been asking when somebody came in for a permit saying, hey, we need to bring in a piece of equipment? Well, obviously we're learning some things here for the next go around, and are we archiving these lessons learned? So I guess we need to go to the experts and the state regulators and that sort of thing and say, hey, what bonding is out there? What should these people have when they come knocking on our door saying they need to move some equipment within our city?
Glenn, they didn't come knocking on our door, that's the problem. See, if they came, then it would fall to the city manager. He typically, I'm not sure he gets releases from everybody that he might, allow to go in there, but, I think it's pretty clear, and I did not bring my interlocal agreement, but I think, you have it? Would you mind bringing that? Can I see that, please?
But I guess that's my point. My point is, we're making claims to controlling and having jurisdiction over those parking access areas. So when all the dust settles, what should we be looking for when we say we really are the owners or operators of those access areas?
We're not going to, I'm personally, you guys can talk about who has the rights to the thing. I can't personally talk about that. My position is legally extremely clear. But here's what I'm talking about, and Frank, I'm coming to you next, okay? I just want to read this. This is, thank you, Debbie, let me make sure I get this back to you. Okay, so it's paragraph 4 of the interlocal, and here's what it says. Patty, this is not going in word for word, I'm just going to read it into the record here for everyone. It says, to the extent permitted by law, the city's us, okay, they're the town, this is the city. The city will indemnify, save, and hold harmless the town, this is cut off, but I think it says from all costs, damage, loss, liability and expense, penalty and or fine whatsoever that may arise from or claimed against the town by any person or persons for any injury to person or property or damage of whatever kind and character consequent to or arising from any use, maintenance, repairs, alterations, improvement whatsoever of or to lots 21, 43, and 66 by the city and its residents and their, I don't know what this is, probably agency, and employees and invitees, except if same arises from the sole negligence of the officers, agents, or employees of the town. That's what it says. That's paragraph 4. So, we kind of have a hold harmless agreement. So if somebody's over there, you know, little child is riding their bicycle to the beach or walking walking to the beach and, you know, heavy crane crushes little kid, sure, you're gonna sue the crane company, but it looks like it comes back to Bel Air Beach. And that's what I was concerned about, is this paragraph, is paragraph 4. All this use, whether it's, our position is very clear, they have no right to be there. Their own statute says that they have no right to be there. Their own statute says they can't have commercial vehicles. That aside, they did, okay? They did. And so the question is they're having a good time, but at our expense, potentially, if somebody gets hurt. And when I see that parties have been done, and, you know, we want to close the gates early, except when there's a party, and they stay up till 11, 12 o'clock with a party, and, you know, you can only imagine these people are coming back to the car in somewhat altered states, maybe, in some cases, and we're indemnifying all of that. That's my concern. It's indemnity only. I'll fight the rest of the battle for the city, but I'm just concerned about indemnity. I can't change what's in that agreement, and I can't litigate that agreement, so. I don't expect you to have an answer. I'm just saying, is this something we should have as a discussion at a council, at a work session, get some input from you? And, you know, we had, somebody said, write a letter. Do we want to write a letter? Do you want to go, you know, you want something more formal? We can discuss that in an open session, but I just bring it up today to know if we're going to throw it on the agenda for October.
Well, two points. One, the only thing I know about this situation is what I've been told at city council meetings. So I am not going to take issue with anything that has been discussed, other than to say I today would like to make sure, before I make any grand pronouncement about anything, that I have all the facts in front of me. So that's one point. That to me is only prudent. Second point is, you read the provision, and I accept the provision as what you stated, but normally you don't get an indemnification benefit from your own conduct. Okay? So, you know, that's a general statement of a legal concept. Again, to Councilmember Gunn's point, you know, you can't change what's already happened, but you can make sure that situation doesn't happen again. And the way to make sure it doesn't happen again is for the council to give the city manager and I direction to address the situation. So that's my answer.
I disagree that this is so as broad as you say it is. It talks about arising from use, maintenance, blah, 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 by the city and its residents and their agents, employees, and invitees. The crane operator is not the city, a resident, its agent, or its invitee. So I can't see how we would be required to indemnify them for that.
You're not indemnifying the crane operator. The invitee is me and you who have a sticker to go and use that. Well, I don't even need a sticker.
Yeah, no.
We live here to use that. So we're the invitee that you have to indemnify. So if I get hit in the head with the crane and paragraph 4 comes up, anybody's going to come up and say, I'm the invitee. We're not indemnifying them. It's not our behavior we're indemnifying against. It's someone else's, what I think is illegal behavior, but that's debatable.
I disagree with your legal opinion.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, bottom line is, you're on notice, there's potential liability questions, what do you want to do about it? You want to move it to the next work session? That's where the likely spot would be to discuss it and see where the council wants to go. If the council doesn't want to, I can't participate in the discussion to leverage that thing, but I can for liability and say, I don't like this contract the way it's written right now. I'm not going to take our city's responsibility for what I think are trespassers on that property. We're indemnifying trespassing right now. I don't like it.
Well, again, I'm going to say, to me, the solution is for the council to give us some direction, and that I'll give you an example of direction you could give. City manager and city attorney, put together a letter that you want to propose to address this situation and present it at the next city council workshop. That's a good start. That way, you'll have something specific, it's in front of you, you can review all the materials that are relevant, and you can, at that point, give further direction. To me, that's a very reasonable, it's incremental. Sometimes things need to be a lot faster, but that's 2 weeks away, and you can certainly do it that way if you want.
May I ask for a point of clarification? When the citizen supplied you with that interlocal agreement, do we need to make a note in the minutes who supplied it, and do we need to have a copy?
You have a copy, it's.
I meant
yeah.
supplied to the city clerk that was actually supplied to you. That way we're getting actually what she gave you. That's my question.
I read it in, if you want it to be read in, the city clerk gave me the copy of the interlocal, it's already a public document, we don't need to create multiple copies of the same document. Anybody wants to read it, it's right here, but I'm handing it back to Debbie, it was not a gift to me, so I'm not archiving it. You have the city interlocal agreement in the possession of the city clerk, so it's paragraph 4, that's what was represented to me, I don't have my copy, but I received my copy from the city clerk 2 years ago. One of the first things I requested. Deeds and the interlocal agreement. You're welcome to read it, take a copy of it if you'd like, with your phone. All right, Frank?
Yeah, getting back to Mr. Gunn's remarks, like, who's responsible? I'm probably the only guy in the room that has a license to run cranes, okay? I work for many crane outfits. Each one of them has an agreement that you sign, that the customer signs before they even get out of the cab or make the first pick, as we would call it. And that takes away all the responsibilities mostly, and they're all written different because they're all different companies, but they're longer than an auto rental contract that you would sign. And all the responsibility is on the renter and the lot that would go on. Because if the lot had a fault underneath it and it collapsed, which the ground, there was no compaction test on that lot, I'm sure, before that crane showed up, all right, which most crane operators would say, hey, what's the compaction level here, all right? They're just assuming that there's no fault underneath there. There is a water line going around there. So I read that interlocal agreement saying that the town is not going to be responsible for anything. Whether we are responsible, this is where you might have a point. Mr. Mayor, you may have a point. Bottom line is, if you keep allowing equipment on those lots, they're not going to be lots anymore. It will tear them up and shred them. Who's going to repair it?
We are.
Okay, there's a sign on the 6th Street lot that we supply the reclamation with. For the beautification, we do all the tree trimming. I've been on this council 203 days now. I am totally still confused on why we do all these expenses and get the middle finger for it.
It's in the interlocal agreement. We agreed to do all the maintenance.
Yeah, yeah, but then we don't get to use it the way it's supposed to be written.
I can tell you why, because we didn't have access before that. That's basically, that was the deal. That's how we got access to that beach.
That's not correct. You've had access since 1950. It's the deeds. I've got them in my lawsuit. We have permanent, and we can dispel this one, you know, and again, I can only tell you because Patty has the deeds too, they're public records. The deeds give every Bel Air Beach resident living east of the center line of Gulf Boulevard the right to use those 3 lots in perpetuity. They cannot be taken away from us. So there's this misinformation, like, oh, don't make them mad, they're going to take it away. Try. Okay, that part is very clear in the deed. Okay, we have the right to use it for beach and bathing purposes. And what we're arguing about right now is that very narrow definition of what beach and bathing purposes are. Some folks think that it gives you the right to bring a towel. What did Captain Liner tell me? You can bring a towel, a chair, and a glass of water. That's pathetic, but that's what you can bring to the beach. Okay? Others are saying, well, maybe you should be allowed to bring a few other things to it. So it's really what that definition is, but it goes all the way back. The interlocal agreement was just to work it out. And the man who signed it is sitting right here. Okay, Mike Kelly was our mayor back then, so we had access to those beaches going back ever since.
1948.
Yeah, 1948. So, Mike? Oh, hang on one second. I would need permission to have you speak, but I would love to hear you. Hang on one second. Does the council, we have a unique opportunity here. Mike Kelly signed that agreement, and probably he can give us some inside information as to what was going on. Right now we're on city attorney business, but if there's no objection, I'd love to hear from him. I don't know what he's gonna say, but I'd love to hear from him. Any objection? Mr. Kelly.
I'm going to go ahead and object. We should actually put this on a work session to where we have more time, and then we can invite Mr. Kelly to that, because I think it's not even on the agenda for this evening, and we've spent quite a bit of time on it. So I think it should go into a work session.
I'm gonna sit down. Let's go to the objection. We need a motion to dispense with the rules. Anybody make it?
I'll second it.
We have a motion second.
Am I
We
going?
spent plenty of time on many other options and other topics that are less important. And it's only 7:40, we've gone to 1 AM, we have plenty of hours.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make this real quick.
Okay. Wait, hang on.
You were correct. You were correct.
Okay.
Mike Kelly, Hibiscus Drive, mayor that signed that, former mayor that signed that interlocal agreement. The key was the words you just said, in perpetuity. We got it forever as residents, to the use of those accesses, and that's what they are. It was done in harmony when it was put together. There was no fighting going on, but and we read it, Dave. Since 1950, it is our, I won't say it's our right to use it. They own the land, we get to use it. That's all there is to it. Questions? Comments?
Can we,
I understand. I'm going to ask you another question. Why would we sign something like that? There had to be some trade-off for us to accept full
It was just
responsibility.
Maintenance. Yeah, we maintained it. It was done in good faith. That was before the gates were even there. There was walls there. I mean, we were walking through there. I'm not sure we were driving through there, but we were walking through there in depth. It came down to the park board, got into some wars going on with who's really taking care of it, who's putting the trees there, who's this, who's that, and that's why the agreement was struck. But it historically you can refer back to when in 1950 we were given the right to use it. It was just a reaffirmation is a good word of what it really was and why we did it. But it's vague. I mean, the whole thing is vague. Mr. Gunn?
What was your intention or understanding at the time? You keep saying access and use, but you haven't used the word ownership. So
Ownership is theirs. The land is theirs. We do not own it. We get to use it. We have the right to use it. There was no dispute whatsoever in terms of the ownership.
And that's kind of where I was going with this, was that, yes, they own it, but we were trying to work out something. Maybe a nice way of saying thank you. I don't know. I don't know what we were doing.
There was no animosity. There was no dispute. Since the charters took place, it's their land. There's 3 lots over there. They're saying, welcome folks, you can use it, you maintain it.
Mike, I have the benefit of having 50 years of history in my legal file. There was a lot of animosity. When they built those gates, we were near a lawsuit. We had 3 lawyers, law firms, including Tom Trask as a young man, not Tom Trask law firm, but Tom Trask as a lawyer, making legal opinion as to ownership and stuff like that. I don't even want to get into all the ownership.
Tom wasn't representing Bel Air Shore.
No, he was representing Bella Beach.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. Yep.
We never hired Tom Trask to do that.
Yeah, we did. And maybe you're not in your group, but someone right
Not
before.
during my terms, you wasn't.
They were talking also about building a city hall on there, which is clearly prohibited, but yeah, I actually have dialogue of meetings. Anyway, we're way off topic on it, but the point is that there was some back and forth on it, and this was a compromise, but, the maintenance, I think it makes sense to me because we have a city manager, we have city DPW crew, we didn't have a city manager back then, but you were in the city, but we had a DPW crew, we had people who could do it. They don't have the ability to maintain this stuff, so it just made sense that we would take on the maintenance. My only question is, things have changed over time, and now, they weren't parking cranes there way back when, and they weren't parking tractor trailers. So mine was strictly a liability thing. Should we be indemnifying them? And that we know that it's happening, then it goes to what Fred's point was, which is the point I'm not going to participate in, but does this council want to tell Fred, write that legal cease and desist letter? Maybe we should.
As a resident, hearing what you're saying, wholeheartedly, I agree you should get Fred absolutely tonight and do it and put him on notice. It's nothing more than protection of our citizens. I urge council right now to do a consensus vote and do it. But there was no trade-off, Dave, strictly maintenance. There was some really irritable park people on the board at the time that were creating wars, real bad wars, with what was going on between the two communities, relative to the types of trees that were out there. It was really stupid. And the whole thing had to be calmed down. We did. No trade-off whatsoever. We just said, we, the city, will tell our people what to do, what to put over there, and how to maintain it. And it was pretty simple. It's only 3 pages long. We didn't do a dictionary of information on this. But I urge you to tell those folks that.
We can't do that one tonight, but it's going to come up on a work session. And I'm going to recuse myself, but I'm going to talk before I recuse myself.
I don't think it needs a
Right,
vote.
right.
We could just have a consensus.
I'll be happy to do it.
Consensus
I
works.
can't consent on that one only because of the legal situation. So if you want to entertain it tonight, we can do it. We're in city we're actually out of our regular agenda here, so I'm going to say do it at the next meeting, but you're going to chair it. I'm telling you in advance. But I am going to say something. I have that right before we do actually it's a consensus, so I don't have to recuse myself. But
You're getting real complex here, and you can simplify it, but just tell them to do that. That's my recommendation as a citizen.
well, it helps with the liability.
At those 3 lots, I don't know if there's 3 plaques, I know there's at least 2 plaques going back to like in the 60s. Stating Bel Air Shores, Bel Air Beach, working together to improve those easements. And there's plaques right when you go onto the beach right there, and they're still maintaining. Now, Mr. Chairman, you said there was problems going back to when the gates were put in. I guess that was like 16 or something like that. But when I moved here in 14, we never.
Gates go way back. They go
We
back
put-
to
we put-
2000.
No, I'm talking about the redoing of the gates.
Yeah.
We put them back in 2003. They put them in. We didn't do it.
Okay,
They said, this is the way it's gonna be,
I understand.
because of bad blood.
And I don't understand how that bad blood had created, because I've only been here since 14, and I never had a problem up until this beach shade
Right,
incident.
it was all about maintenance. And what people said that we're gonna do, or we're not gonna do, over here from our park board, it was absurd. But that's history too.
Yeah.
They put the gates up because they chose to. If they want to lock those gates, they can. Yes, we can use it, but they could turn around and say, we're gonna put a 3-foot gate there, and you can't drive here anymore, and we're gonna put a lock on it. So keep it civil, keep it calm, and Bel Air Beach, you can use it in perpetuity.
Yeah, and I'm going to disagree with everybody about who owns it or not. I mean, I know it's on the tax parcel of Bel Air Shores, there's been no taxes ever paid on it. If you look at the language, it will actually clarify that we're the named party on the tax parcel of Bel Air Beach, okay, even though it's on that strip of land. But the deed, I guess this goes back to what came first, the chicken or the egg. I mean, 1950, I think we got chartered, Bel Air Beach. Those conveyances and deeds came with us from the Bel Air Beach improvement. Bel Air Shores didn't get chartered till 55, I believe.
They were charted over 3 different names, but.
Well, it was the town
I'll
of
help you
Paul.
out.
Yeah.
The ownership resides with them, but what their type of ownership is different than the type of ownership that you or I have on a house. It's not unfettered stuff. They can't put a city hall there. And the way I read it, and that's not just me, but a lot of lawyers that I think are quite more talented than me when it comes to real estate law, have read it, that they hold that as trustee, not to do whatever they want with it. And my backup for that, and I'm not telling you anything, folks, so don't go call your friends in Bel Air Shore that Manzo gave away the secret. It's right in my complaint. It's in their corporate formation. They hold it as trustee. That's why.
I agree with that.
That's why I'm trying to remove them as trustee. We'll see if I'm right or not. I don't know.
This is a long way.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for the insight. Very nice to have you here with that.
This is a long way from what I started out with.
It is.
But let me give you some things to think about. There are 4 relevant documents. One of them is the trust document. The other one is the interlocal agreement. And then both the city of Bel Air Beach and the town of Bel Air Shore each have ordinances that relate to the beach access lots. Those are the 4 relevant things that should be considered. Having said that, I don't think it is highly controversial that a letter be prepared and presented at the next workshop that points out that to me, the 2 things that are easily identified is the crane and the issuance of permits. And those be the examples that are put in the letter that Lynn and I would put together. And the council, y'all have divergent views on all sorts of things. I would feel better presenting that letter to y'all at a workshop, and then you have something specific to discuss, and you can tweak the letter if you want, or rip it to shreds and throw it out if you want to do that, but at least you have something specific. And to me, the thing to do is to put the other city on notice for non-controversial things like comply with your own code provision and comply with the interlocal agreement that obligates you to do certain things. I don't think the obligation is a one-way street, and it would be my hope that if you presented that kind of a letter, the other city would take it under consideration, and hopefully we would get a resolution that would benefit everybody.
For the next the work session will be scheduled. Lynn, tell me if I'm running into anything holiday-wise or problem-wise. The 18th of October is the Monday? Is that it? That works for everybody? Council?
Not for me.
Not for Frank. Doesn't have to be a Monday, we have flexibility, because Tuesday, Frank.
I'm going to be going that probably that whole week.
That's a problem. We could move it to the following week, which would be the 25th, 26th.
Monday's better for me.
Mondays are better for you? Monday the 25th. Not there? Anybody got a problem with the 25th?
I'm not going to be here the 25th.
Could be around 20. Are you around, what, 26th or?
Yeah.
Okay, 26th. That's a Tuesday,
No.
Leslie. No?
What's wrong with we got a quorum, right? I mean, that's what.
Yeah.
It's
it's
too
just-
close to the next meeting if we push it out that late. I'm better towards the middle of the month.
So let's stick with the 18th then, and then Frank can phone in. I hope it's better than last time, Frank, that phone hooked up. 18th, so is that enough time, Fred, if you put together that?
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
But you all need to tell me what you want to do.
Well, I think you heard kind of, I'm going to tell you when it comes to that letter, I can't say a word, so I'm not going to say a word. I'm only on
That's
liability.
fine. I'll sum up what I think.
Everybody else can talk, though.
I think he's being proactive here and he's looking for a consensus, and I say, I agree. Let's start
So
working.
we have Glenn and Leslie, you're good?
Yep.
I'm not going to say a word.
I'm good.
Yep, good. Lynn? Yep. Robin? Okay. You got consensus, okay? With me not.
Lynn and I will put the letter together, and it will be ready for the meeting on the 18th.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. Sorry we got into a big discussion, that probably one of the longer city attorney ones. Do you have anything else? Okay. City manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I did send, after the 27th, I did send the letter to Bel Air Shore about the buoys, but appears we're gonna do something different maybe. But that's already been sent. Just to give you an update on the rescue funds, they did come in. Originally, we had to give them our first report on the 31st of October, but that was changed last week to April of '22, so much better. And they didn't have the report format together anyway, so. For the work session next time, we're gonna bring what do we call it, a clean copy of the sign ordinance. And I'm also gonna bring you some concepts of the size of the boards, because or the signs, because I think what I heard 3x5, 2x4, and they just get bigger. So I'm gonna bring some to the meeting so you can actually see the size. So Patty's gonna be on vacation next week. So for the work session, if you wanna put anything on that agenda, we need that agenda item by noon on Thursday.
The items that were tabled tonight should automatically be on.
Yeah, those are,
Okay.
those
That's everybody. All the items that got tabled tonight automatically go to the work session, so it's our
Okay.
intent. Table.
right. So if you have anything else you wanna add to it, please get it to Patty by noon on Thursday.
This Thursday?
This Thursday, because she's gonna be on vacation next week, and you'll get the agenda, it'll come out Friday, since she's gonna be on vacation. I'm sure you already noticed the speed monitor has been put at the bridge and over on Gulf Boulevard, and the county is working on the intersection changes with the turn lanes and stuff, so that's all I had.
And did they put a traffic camera on the bridge? We noticed a new camera up in the middle of the bridge.
I don't know that they did, but I'll ask that.
There's one up there, yeah.
Up high?
Yeah, up high, and then like our side of the bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm doing it, okay, yeah, there's one up there. They're spying on us, we gotta find out what they're doing there.
Well, we've talked to them about, because we even had some more discussion about the intersection, because they said, well, the traffic numbers are lower and this, that, the other. Well, we're talking about September, we're not talking about June, July, and August, and Easter and other times. So they are going forward with the intersection changes that everybody talked about with the 2 left turn lanes to see if it helps. But I did notice on Gulf Boulevard today, going that way, a lot of brakes. So, they're looking at it and they're paying attention. So that's it.
I have a question. Do you know what happened last night in that intersection?
Where
It was shut down. The entire intersection was shut down.
they didn't tell me about anything today. Intersection,
Read it here next.
Causeway?
Northbound, just after you make the right turn at the causeway onto
They completely closed traffic. You had to go all the way around to get home.
Well, the reason I probably don't know is because Captain Liner's out this week, so, because usually he's the one that sends me what happens.
Read it, a question.
Yes. One of the citizens brought up that pumping the pond over here, that reminded me of something. I've seen our city employees mowing that pond, and since that's Pinellas County's property, do we charge them for Pinellas County for that? Do we have permission to be on that property to mow it? What if somebody gets hurt over there mowing that, since it's owned by them?
Well, no, we don't get any money for it. It's an interlocal agreement. I can tell you if Pinellas County maintained it, it would be, an example would probably be on East Bay, down on the south side of a retention pond. The weeds would be up to here because they'd only mow it ever so often. But no, there's no payment. That was an interlocal agreement set up many years ago.
Lynn, I had one other quick question. What's going on Gulf Boulevard and 9th Street? It's been torn up for 2 weeks here, maybe 3. What are they digging for gold?
That was the damage that Spectrum hit Frontier's line. and they had to wait for some parts in a vault, and they filled it back in, so I think their work is pretty much done there. Of course, Spectrum's still working on Gulf Boulevard to take the lines down, but that was a very long time coming.
I hope they had a good insurance policy. That was a lot of work. Those guys
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, because they dug it up again.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk, you're going on vacation. Gun.
I have a question for the city clerk, my interactions with the staff. My question is as the public records custodian, how many open public records requests are we sitting on? And are we running into timeliness issues with these things?
Yes, right now, I'm not sure the exact number, but I believe it's 12 open ones right now. That's open, okay, we've closed a lot of them. As far as timeliness, yes, because some of them are so, there's so much involved in them, and we're having to have our IT consultant, he actually had to research and work with it and experiment how to actually get what was being requested. He's finally figured that out, so now we have to do the process for each one.
Okay, so what's the get well plan and all of this stuff, and how do we make this go away and get better with it? What's the time frame for this get well plan?
What do you mean exactly?
Well, I mean, you're sitting on open public records requests. What's the issue? What's the get well plan for solving the issue and moving forward and clearing off your docket because you're busy and it's impacting your other duties?
Yeah, we don't have a program that will actually search, like some, you know, if you have a larger city, have a program that'll search and redact and everything else. We don't have that. So we're having to use a program that he found, and it's a little bit cumbersome, and so it takes longer, and we just have to go through the process. That's all we can do, and then we have to physically look at each one and redact from there, but we have to look at each one. And as long as the city attorney has said that as long as we're making a good faith effort, which we are, I mean, we work on it continuously, then we're complying, and, you know, we try to get them out as fast as we can, because that's what we want. We want people to be able to get the records they're asking for.
Can I add something to that right quick?
Sure.
Basically, if we hosted our own server, we would not be having these problems. It would be much faster, and it leads me to wonder at what point is it not worth using cloud-based services with these record requests, because that's what it boils down to. You have to query those servers somehow, and is that right?
Yes, that's what he's doing.
Okay, so basically, if we had the server in our possession, we wouldn't be going through near the trouble. Now, there's overhead with obviously keeping a server here on site and maintaining it, but the point is that eventually we're going to hit we're going to hit this period where it's no longer worth using cloud-based services if we keep going through these public records requests, especially for I have no idea what they are, what the nature of them are, but if it's somebody that's served the city for many years, or even 3 years, I get a lot of email. I'm sure everyone here does. So I can imagine 3 years. I cannot imagine, say, 15 years. And that's just my 2 cents on that. Something to think.
It's not only a technology-based issue, though, right? There's reimbursement issues, and there were some concerns about getting an AG opinion on reimbursements. Where are we with that, and how are we going to solve that issue?
Well, I brought that up to the council, and Fred and I had a short conversation today about that. And Patty has given some input that I'm going to send to Fred. And we need to discuss, the ramifications of the cost, because we keep kind of running into a wall that says, okay, well, we have a city email for everyone that's applied, but then unfortunately, some emails are handled privately. They have their own email account, and when a public records request comes in, Patty sends that to whoever it is. You know, it doesn't matter if it's Dave, the mayor, or Glenn, if they have a private email account. She sends that to them, and we have instances where people have asked for payment before they provide the public record. Well, we've got 2 or 3 different versions of, no, you don't get paid, yes, you do get paid. So I think going forward, so we resolve this and once and for all. And then the other question is, what is the value of that payment? I'm going to use Frank as an example, because he made sent an email, I think, that you got $78 an hour or something. Okay, so is that what he gets paid for providing a public record, or is it something less? And, you know, Robin, maybe she gets paid $300 an hour as a surgeon. Okay, well, in the mayor's case, I don't know what his legal fee is, but it's probably $200 or $300 an hour. Does he get paid for $200 or $300?
What I asked for.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying in general. So to clear this up, I think it's incumbent to resolve it is ask the Attorney General to give us some type of opinion on, because the way the sunshine thing reads, it says reasonable cost. So what is reasonable cost? It doesn't tell you that.
And the Attorney General's not going to tell you it either. She's going to tell you that it's reasonable.
Well, I think the question that I'm trying to get resolved is, because we've received 2 or 3 different opinions, is there payment for that or is there not payment for that? That's what needs to be resolved, really. And that's kind of where I talked to Fred about it.
We can discuss this at the work session. I know this book backwards and forward. I wrote you the law on it. I'll be happy to go through this again for probably the 4th time. The rules are crystal clear, and they're not clear at all. Okay, so it says reasonable, and that's what the Attorney General is going to say. The county charges, I think, $71 an hour. So just full disclosure, I was asking for $75, which is the absolute lowest rate I charge anybody, and that's the state of New Jersey. And they pay their bills. Not everybody who's requested records pays the bills with me. So,
I just think
but I'm just saying, I mean, so if the county, you know, so we're not, and the Attorney General's opinion too, I mean, let's talk about this at the meeting, but it's an opinion. She's not the Supreme Court. It's a legal opinion. You have 4 lawyers with 4 opinions, you have a 5th lawyer with a 5th opinion. It's nothing but persuasive. So it's not going to stop anything, and we're going to spend a lot of money. I read the letter back and forth, because I did request that letter, and Fred put a lot of work on that. Rightly so, he was asked to do it. So we can talk about it at the next meeting. Glenn brought it up, we certainly can talk about it, but, you know.
We just want to clear it up so Patty has some guidance to go forward.
Well,
you run into an issue, though, is if someone wants to use their private server, their private email, whatever, everyone here is provided with an email address. If you choose not to use it, well, now we don't know what to do. We don't know how to handle it. And, you know, you're always going to have 1 or 2 people that want to conduct city business on some other type of email, and that's where the problems start. That's where it's too difficult to nail down how do you pay somebody, because you wouldn't have to pay them at all if they were using the city's mail server.
Leslie Tara doesn't use the city email. I don't use the city email. Nobody on any one of the parks boards, planning board, or any of the others are even supplied with city emails. City email, my city email has been hacked 3 times. My personal one, 0. I'll stick with mine. That's it. It's real simple, okay? And I have every right to use it, and so does Leslie, and so does Glenn if he chooses, and anybody else. And we do know what to do. It says that the person's an agency, and the agency is allowed to charge a reasonable fee. And if a requester has a problem with that, I said this to a person one time who made a big issue and wrote a big letter. I said, this isn't the forum. The city council can't help you with this. The city manager and city attorney and city clerk, they're just the messengers. Don't shoot them. Your avenue, the book is clear. You have to go to court. And by the way, if the person who says, I'm going to do this is wrong, you're allowed to get legal fees. So by all means, if somebody thinks it's wrong, there's an avenue for that. It's the court here in Pinellas. So take it to court. That's the way you do it. Why we're spending a fortune on something that's really somebody else's responsibility, I don't know why we're doing it, really. It's very easy what you do. Patty's done it with me several times. I'm not sure about other people who've had private servers, but plenty of people have used private ones in the past. It's completely your choice. You know. So, but we can talk about it. Let's add it to the work session next time, and we'll take care of Glenn's comments, and we'll see where we go with it. If everybody has a consensus that they want to go forward, that's fine. We'll spend the money. I'd be glad to. I can't see your face, but. Any other comments from the city clerk? Questions? City council comments. We start with Robin.
No comment.
No comments. Frank Banger.
Just that our last work session, Vice Mayor Gaddis and you, and we were discussing a peaceful resolution to these meetings. Kudos to you. Tonight went great. I'm sure Admiral stock will go down, but you know, good suggestion. Hope it goes well. All the others.
Tonight's meeting was wonderful, and so was that work session. Anything else, Frank? Leslie,
No comments.
Ms. Wolf,
No comment.
Dave Gaddis. Nope. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and thanks for the good meeting. And our work session is going to be in 2 weeks on the 18th. What else do we have here? We have a park that's already open. That Parks Board meeting. Let's see, upcoming meetings. Oh, as of the 4th. Parks Board is the 13th at 3 o'clock. Parks and Rec Board at the 13th at 3 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second, everybody in favor? Aye. No one opposed? Have a good night. Thanks, everyone.